The year is 2003. Under the blistering sun of Chile's Atacama Desert, a hobby treasure hunter pokes around the ruins of an abandoned mining church. He opens a cracked leather pouch and a 6-inch skeleton tumbles out. 10 pairs of ribs, a cone-shaped skull, and skin like bleached parchment. It is nothing anyone has ever seen. Nobody could have predicted what would follow. Not the tabloids, not the scientists, not even the collector who tucked the body away. Over the next decade, this tiny skeleton would ignite a storm of headlines, spark a war over scientific ethics, and convince thousands that Earth had finally made contact. What began as a desert curiosity would become a global mystery, one that only DNA could solve. This is the story of Ata, the so-called Atacama alien. As soon as the hobbyist makes his discovery in the desert, the news is out. Word quickly spreads from the mining town to local journalists, then to national papers, and then to the rest of the world. The headline "Alien Girl Found" begins trending. Within days, early internet forums are ablaze with speculation. Every low-resolution photo is picked apart like a crime scene, people searching for secrets in the shadows, convinced they're seeing something otherworldly. But just as the buzz hits a fever pitch, the trail goes cold. The skeleton vanishes, acquired by a mysterious private collector. He claims he wanted to protect it from exploitation, but instead of donating it to a museum or a research lab, he quietly ships it to Spain and locks it away in his personal archive. From that moment, the trail goes dark, and then silence. The story could have ended there, but it didn't. Science refuses to look away. The mystery specimen may be physically missing now, but its shadow continues to haunt the scientific community. A handful of leaked X-rays, captured before the body vanished into private hands, reveal bones as dense as those of a 6-year-old, despite the fact that the entire creature is only 15 centimeters long. These scans become the focal point of dozens of unofficial investigations, traded quietly between researchers and amateur analysts. Skull-to-body ratio, rib count, and cranial sutures don't match any known congenital disorder. Specialists float explanations: extreme dwarfism, prenatal calcification, ritual mummification, but none fit the skull staring back. With no physical access to the body, the contradictions remain unresolved, deepening the myth. The more scientists try to explain it, the stranger it seems. With scientific access stalled and public fascination growing, a vacuum of information opens, and into that void steps the conspiracy machine. In 2013, filmmaker Stephen Greer features the mysterious skeleton in his UFO documentary Sirius. On camera, a pathologist declares, "We have never seen bones like this." The effect is electric. Google searches for the Atacama alien spiked 600%. Reaction YouTubers dissect the footage frame by frame. Late-night hosts joke that ET finally sent a baby picture. Lacking answers, the public begins to invent their own. Nevertheless, only silence ensued. Nothing was released. After a few months, the absence of new information choked off the rumors, and the frenzy seemed to die down. Years pass, the legend mutates. A micro-industry of documentaries, podcasts, Reddit threads, and bootleg books persists. One theory claims that Ata is a hybrid being seeded by visitors to guide humankind. The most viral claim, however, is that the Vatican has the real body and the one in Spain is just a decoy. No matter the angle, at this point one thing remains true: nobody agrees and no real science has been done. Until now, the year is 2017. After 14 years, a breakthrough finally arrives, not with full access to the body, but with a sliver of compromise. Stanford immunologist Dr. Garry Nolan spends months negotiating with the Spanish collector, who remains wary of media. Eventually, the collector agrees to a limited collaboration. Under strict conditions, he allows a small sampling, just a milligram of bone marrow dust, to be extracted and sent abroad. It is rushed across continents and handed to a state-of-the-art lab in California. Nolan's team runs a preliminary PCR scan. 91% of the fragments line up with human DNA. The remaining 9%, unmatched. Twitter explodes. Confirmed alien genome. But geneticists urge caution. Partial reads are notoriously misleading. Contamination, decay, and sequencing can all create anomalies. Seeking clarity, Nolan enlists a full team of researchers from UCSF. He loads the raw data onto a high-throughput cluster, aligning it not just against the human genome, but with chimps, bonobos, macaques, Neanderthals, and even mouse and pigs for control. Yet even after scanning billions of base pairs across all of these species, the results show no conclusive evidence of anything extraterrestrial. There's no foreign genome, no radical mutation, and no sequence that can't be explained through common degradation patterns of known primate relatives. In scientific terms, there's no smoking gun, no decisive proof pointing to anything beyond human biology. The analysis reveals that some of the unusual DNA results weren't alien. They were mistakes caused by damage to the sample. When a body decays, especially in harsh environments, the DNA inside of it breaks apart. Some of the strands become incomplete, while others get chemically altered. These kinds of errors, called artifacts, can make normal human DNA look unfamiliar or confusing when first scanned. What seemed like non-human sequences turned out to be noise, not signals. These weren't alien signatures. They were the biological equivalent of static on a broken radio. Nolan's research team presses forward. They initiate full, whole genome sequencing using one of the most advanced and trusted platforms available in medical research, capable of reading billions of genetic letters with extreme accuracy. They mapped out over 3 billion base pairs and checked each one dozens of times to ensure nothing was missed. As the machines hum for days, the world holds its breath. Whispers from insiders hint at groundbreaking news. Theories peak. A journalist tweets, 3 PhDs seen crying at the lab. Confirmed non-human? A YouTube channel posts a video titled, Ata's DNA Breakthrough. And then, finally after years of speculation, the news arrives not through a leak or a tweet, but with the quiet authority of science. On March 22, 2018, the journal Genome Research publishes the full results. The PDF spreads like wildfire through academic circles and then bursts into the public sphere. Headlines follow within hours. The revelation? Ata is human. A female fetus, likely around 15 weeks into development. Her DNA showed markers that are common in people of Chilean heritage with traces of European ancestry, exactly what you would expect from someone native to the Atacama region. But here's where it gets strange. Her genes carried not just one, but over 5 rare mutations, each known to cause serious bone disorders. One gene was linked to brittle bones, another affected how the spine and limbs grow, yet another that disrupted how the skeleton forms at all. Individually, any of these conditions might lead to deformities, but together, they created a devastating combination. Bones that hardened too quickly, ribs that twisted out of shape, and a skull that sealed up far too early. That's why the X-rays looked so bizarre, why the density resembled a much older child, and why the body didn't quite look human at first glance. It wasn't a visitor from another world, it was the result of a tragic and extremely rare genetic storm, written into her biology before she ever had a chance to be born. The illusion of alienness was real, crafted not by fiction, but by biology. The revelation lands like a thunderclap. For scientists, it's the final piece of the puzzle, but for many in the public, it's not the answer they were looking for. Many claim that the results are simply too convenient. They insist that the real data has just been hidden or manipulated. Accusations begin to flood in. They changed the genome. This is just another distraction. The story may have been scientifically settled, but online belief had a life of its own. Even as the data settles the science, it doesn't quiet the noise. In the age of internet rabbit holes and viral narratives, the truth doesn't always win, it just competes. Some accept the findings, others double down, certain the real story is still being hidden. Meanwhile, in Chile, the backlash is more somber. Archaeologists decry the violation of a human child's remains. Ethics boards file formal complaints. The National Monuments Council of Chile renews its call: return the body and bury her with dignity. To many, Ata is no longer a mystery, but a person, a real child, and her journey from sacred earth to global spectacle forces a confrontation with questions that aren't about genetics at all, questions about consent, dignity, and who gets to decide how we treat the dead, about what we do when discovery overshadows humanity. Ata's tiny bones, compressed by centuries and distorted by disease, leave us with a sobering reminder. The unknown doesn't always come from the stars. Sometimes it's just a life forgotten by time until science has finally stopped to listen.